Tony Curtis finally speaks up about Burt Lancaster. On June 3, 1925, in New York City, Tony Curtis was born. Bernard Schwartz. New York City was a huge star in Hollywood's golden age. Her life and career showed both the glitz and the difficulties of working in the entertainment industry. Curtis was born to Hungarian Jewish immigrants in the Bronx. He grew up in a working-class home and had many challenges in his early life. During the Great Depression, Curtis's family had a hard time making ends meet. As a child, he regularly did odd jobs, which showed that he was responsible and driven from an early age. His hard childhood impacted not only his work ethic but also his ability to connect with and understand his listeners. He often used his own experiences to make his performances feel real and genuine. Curtis stayed focused on his goals even though he had to deal with a lot of problems, like losing his father when he was young. In the end, he found a way to become one of Hollywood's most popular performers. Curtis's path to becoming an actor was unusual and motivating. He served in the U.S. Navy during World War II and then went to the theatrical workshop in New York to learn how to act. There, he was taught by the famous teacher Erwin Pisser. His early work on stage and his commitment to learning the trade set the stage for a long and varied career that would last more than 60 years. In the late 1940s, Hollywood scouts saw him, and he signed a deal with Universal Pictures. Curtis's early performances, which were mostly in criminal dramas and comedies, showed off his charm, sharp wit, and strong screen presence, rapidly making him a promising young actor. But what really set him apart was his ability to blend charm, sensitivity, and passion. This made him great in a wide range of genres, from romantic comedies to tense thrillers. Tony Curtis became a big star in the 1950s, which made him a starring man on the silver screen. He was in a number of very popular movies, such as Sweet Smell of Success 1957, Some Like It Hot 1959, and The Defiant Ones 1958. The latter got him a nomination for Best Actor at the Academy Awards. Some Like It Hot, in particular, showed off Curtis's perfect comedic timing, his willingness to take on unusual parts, and his irresistible chemistry with co-stars Marilyn Monroe and Jack Lemmon. The movie is still a classic that people love decades later. His performances showed a lot of range. He was just as good at making people laugh, cry, or think deeply. This ability to change made him popular with a wide range of people and gained him praise from critics, which solidified his place among Hollywood's best. Curtis was renowned for more than just his job. He was also known for being professional, dedicated to his art, and always wanting to do more in his work, constantly looking for parts that pushed him and helped him improve as an actor. Curtis's life was also a monument to his strength and kindness, in addition to his work on television. Even though he was famous, he never forgot where he came from. He stayed close to his family and philanthropic organizations and often shared his stories to motivate others. His book, American Prince, is a memoir that gives readers a close look at the man behind the reputation. It talks about both the good and bad times he had to deal with, from dealing with Hollywood's studio system to dealing with personal problems and relationships. Tony Curtis's biography is one of change. He went from being a youngster in the Bronx to an international star. This shows not just his amazing talent, but also the human traits of kindness, humility, and determination. Tony Curtis was one of Hollywood's most charming and long-lasting stars. His personal life was just as colorful and dramatic as the characters he played on screen. His many marriages are a good example of this. Each one gives us a glimpse into his life and personality at different points in his career. His first wife was Janet Leigh, a well-known actress in her own right. She was noted for her grace, talent, and memorable roles, such as her unforgettable part in Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. Curtis and Leigh got married in 1951, when Curtis was just starting to make a name for himself in Hollywood. He was moving up from little jobs to become one of the most sought-after leading men of the 1950s. Their marriage, which lasted until 1962, was very publicized and often appeared in the gossip columns of the time. This showed both the glitz and the stress of life in Hollywood. They worked together to handle the pressures of becoming more famous while also raising a family and juggling occupations in an industry that was changing quickly. Their marriage spawned 2 daughters, Kelly Curtis and Jaime Lee Curtis, both of whom went on to have successful acting careers, following in the footsteps of their renowned parents. Even though they got a divorce, their time together had a big impact on both of their lives and careers. Curtis married Christine Kaufmann, a German actress known for her beauty, refinement, and involvement in European cinema, in 1963 after breaking up with Lee. This marriage opened up a new chapter for Curtis. It brought him closer to the European cinema business and gave him the chance to explore the international aspects of his personal and professional life. The marriage lasted until 1968 and had 2 children, Allegra Curtis and Alexandra. Curtis was famous in Hollywood during this time, but he also had a life full of European culture, travel, and artistic discovery. But like many famous marriages, it ended because of the stress of his busy job and personal problems. Curtis's third marriage to Leslie Allen in 1968 was probably his longest and most steady one up to that point. It lasted 14 years, till 1982. During this time in his life, he took a more stable approach to family life since he wanted to find stability following 2 divorces. Allen, who was less well known than Curtis's previous spouses, was very important in giving Curtis a stable home life in the frequently crazy world of Hollywood. Their marriage gave Jaime Lee to half-sisters, which made his already big family even bigger. Even though Curtis was still going through the ups and downs of his job, he still wanted to be with someone and have a normal life. Curtis married Andrea Savio in 1984, which added another chapter to his complicated love life. Curtis was trying out more mature and thoughtful roles in his acting career at the time of this marriage, which lasted 8 years until 1992. Savio, who used to be a model, added her own flair and social connections to Curtis's life. Their time together, which ended in divorce, showed how Curtis always looked for love and companionship, even when things were hard and the public was always watching. In 1993, Curtis married Lisa Deutsch for the 5th time. The marriage only lasted a year before they were divorced. Even though this marriage didn't last long, it showed that Curtis still hoped to find love and a companion who could share both his personal and professional life. Even though it was short, it showed how complicated his personal life was and how eager he was to take emotional risks even as he got older. Finally, in 1998, Curtis married Jill Vandenberg. This was the last of his marriages. Vandenberg, a wealthy businesswoman and entrepreneur, and Curtis both valued family and stability. And this marriage lasted till Curtis died in 2010. This last marriage might be considered as the end of Curtis's journey through love and companionship. It was a partnership that gave him support, happiness, and some peace in the closing years of his life. Tony Curtis, the legendary actor known for his charm, wit, and undeniable screen presence, has finally talked about his complicated and multifaceted relationship with Burt Lancaster, a contemporary whose fame, talent, and commanding presence in Hollywood cast a long shadow over many of their shared projects. Curtis said of Burt, "He was one of those rare actors who carried the weight of the world on his shoulders, but he did it with such grace that you almost didn't notice." Curtis said that having Lancaster on set was both motivating and scary. You couldn't help but feel how talented Burt was when you went into a room with him. He got people's attention without even trying, Curtis said, showing how much he respected Lancaster's art even when things were tense. Curtis then talked about how Lancaster's way of acting was very different from his own. Burt was very careful and wanted everything to be perfect. Every movement, every line, and every look had to be just correct. I was more spontaneous and playful with my performances. Curtis said that working with him taught him discipline and accuracy. He argued that this difference caused both problems and growth. It was unpleasant at times, but looking back, those challenges taught me more than any seminar or workshop ever could. Burt had a knack of making you aware of your own limits and then helping you get past them. He said that this connection was like an implicit form of mentorship. He never called it teaching, and he never looked down on anyone. But if you paid attention, you learned. Burt taught me a lot, not just about acting, but also about how to act in this business. Curtis talked highly of Lancaster's professionalism, but he didn't shy away from admitting that there was some competition between them. There were times when I felt like I was always striving to match Burt's innate passion and charm. Curtis said, "Hollywood is a weird place. It might be hard to compete, and when you're with someone like Burt, you can't help but want to do better." Curtis, on the other hand, stressed that this competition was never mean or personal. It wasn't about being angry. It was all about respect. I wanted to do my best, and Burt made me a better artist, whether he meant to or not. He thought about how this stress made some of his best performances even better. I suppose the little competitions and interactions we had produced sparks that showed up on screen. Some of the best times in my career were when Burt and I were both trying our hardest to be the best we could be. Curtis also told personal stories that showed a gentler, more human side of Lancaster, which balanced out his on-screen fury. When the camera wasn't rolling, Burt could be really nice and kind. He had a dry sense of humor that would catch you off guard and make you chuckle when you least expected it. He would tell about his family, the hard times he had when he was young, and the things that made him who he is now. Those times made you remember that the larger-than-life figure was just a man with real concerns, hopes, and a big heart. Curtis observed, these glimpses behind the curtain were some of the reasons he had a tremendous respect for Lancaster. You couldn't only perceive him as the famous Burt Lancaster. You had to see him as the man Burt Lancaster, and that made every meeting important. In the end, Curtis's feelings toward Lancaster were a mix of admiration, respect, and sad memories. Burt was a force of nature, a man who left a lasting impression on everyone he met. I don't say this lightly. I've learned things from him that I've used my whole life. He pushed me, motivated me, and in his own way, led me. I feel thankful when I talk about him now. I had the chance to work with someone like Burt, even though it wasn't always easy. Not everyone has that chance. Those things made me the man and performer I am today. In July 2010, the famous Hollywood star Tony Curtis got some bad news about his health. Chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder, or COPD, is a lung illness that becomes worse over time and would make it harder for him to breathe and live life to the fullest. This news was hard for a man whose life had been defined by amazing performances on the big screen, from timeless masterpieces to unforgettable roles that made him one of the most charming people in movies. Even though Tony was strong and determined, his health got worse over the next few months. Sadly, he died of a sudden heart attack on September 23rd of the same year. This ended a wonderful life that lasted about 85 years. Fans and co-workers alike were tremendously affected by his death. They recalled him not only for his incredible talent and lasting charm, but also for the warmth, wit, and humanity he showed off-screen. Tony Curtis's death was more than just the demise of a movie star. It was the end of an era, a sad reminder that life is fragile even for those who appear bigger than it.